Hello friends and fashion lovers, welcome back. Thank you for all your love, your positive comments and all your support, and thank you for clicking on this video. If you are here for the first time, please support this channel to grow by subscribing, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so that you don't miss a video, and take out time to watch other previous videos. Today's tutorial is a highly requested one on how to draft a pant pattern. This pattern can be modified to suit your need and taste. To get started, these are what I'm using in drafting the pattern. I have my markers for visibility, my different rulers including my pattern master, my scissors for cutting the pattern, my tape measure, and of course the paper to draft my pattern on. So the measurement you need for the drafting will be on the screen. While you're looking at the measurements, I'll quickly draw my guideline. So here with my guideline ready, firstly I'll put the full length of the trouser I'm making, and I'll extend it across my drafting paper. Next is to put from waist to hip measurements, which I am going to as well mark it across in my paper. So here I'm putting in quarter of my hip measurements on that hip line, and I'm also extending that marking to the waistline. Next is to come down by 1 inch for my waistband. I know a standard waistband is 1.5, but we just come down by 1 inch to avoid raising the side and the extra step of adding half-inch seaming allowance. Next is to determine your crotch. Either you tie a rope on your waist where you want it to stop and sit on a hard surface. Take the measurement from that your rope, your waistline to the hard surface. That is your crouch depth. Or you dish that and use the crouch depth formula of hip divided by 4. Your round hip measurement divided by 4 is the crouch depth formula. So here I have 10. And I'm indicating that. Next is to find the grain line. The grain line is very important because it just makes your trouser to look appropriate and proportionate. So here I am marking half of that hip line since that is the widest part. So next is the knee line. Find the half of the measurement from crouch to the full length and go up by 2 inches towards the crouch or the thigh line. So now centralize all your measurements on that grain line. So the hip is already centralized. Now to find the crouch line extension, you could put half of your thigh measurement, or you divide this hip line into 4. Once again, I just place my tape like this. You take this measurement and divide it into 4. Whatever you have is your front crouch extension. So next is the knee measurement. The round knee measurement, make sure that you put half of your round knee measurement. And when you're taking your round knee measurement, make sure it's not too tight. You can easily bend your knee. Since it's a straight leg pant, I just extend my round knee measurement to my ankle. So there I will just connect the point, and I'll connect it to my hip line on my out seam, then on my inseam to my crouch line. So now the waist measurement, I am putting 1/4 of my waist measurement, that's quarter of my waist measurement, without any allowance on this line. I'll just connect it. So next, since the human waist is not straight, slope the front waistline by 1 inch. So here I've sloped the front waistline by 1 inch. It is okay if the front waist is wider than the initial marking. So now to the back, just draw your guideline. Now put quarter of your hip measurement plus 2 inches on the hip line. Once again, quarter of your hip measurement plus 2 inches. Note that the front had no allowance, but at the back you added 2 inches. Find your grain line like you did for the front. So pretty much things are easy. Mostly things that you did for the front, you're doing for the back. So on the knee line, have your round knee measurement. Add 2 inches to have your round knee measurement. I had 9.5, then I added 2 inches, that's 11.5, and I'm marking 5 3/4 of an inch on both sides. That's to centralize my marking on the grain line. So if you feel I'm too fast, please, you can slow it down. So now for my crouch line extension, I am just going to divide this line into 4 like I did for the front. Yes, divide it into 4 like you did for the front. And there you have your crouch line extension. Go ahead and connect it. So on the waistline, you refer to your front waistline. Whatever you took out to have your quarter of your waist measurement, you are taking same out. I had 1 inch on my inseam, so I am taking that 1 inch out at this side. So on my out seam, that's my side seam, I also had 1 inch taken out. So as well, I am going to mark that 1 inch on my out seam on my back block. So yours could be half seam. So notice that I didn't add that to my front block. If you added that to your front block, that means you had added extra 1 inch. So now to the back, you try and raise it up by 1 inch. Yes, the back is raised by 1 inch while the front is reduced or slants down by 1 inch. You raise the back by 1 inch, meaning in total that the back is more than the front by 2 inches on the inseam. So having said that, this pattern of drafting a trouser provides you with at least 1 inch of that allowance at the back. So now we are almost done. I'll just label it that is a back. So to the dart now, if you didn't add a dart on the front block like I did, you will only mark out 1 dart, which will be at the center. Just find the center. It might not necessarily be on your grain line, and you measure 5 inch downward, then half inch on both sides. That's 1 inch of that. But if we had added that in front, you're going to mark 2 darts at this back. So with my darts out of the way, my back block is ready and my front block is ready. Next, you're talking about the fly. If you're using a zipper fly, if you're putting a fly on your trouser, just make sure that you come down from this hip line by about half inch. That's without seaming allowance. You add seaming allowance when you're cutting on your fabric. Then 1.5 inches is the width of this my fly. Just know that for the shield it's double this measurement and slightly longer by half an inch. And that's just the difference, because the shield will be on fold, so you just fold this. So this is basically it for the fly. Then moving on, I am going to add my seaming allowance. I know you start by extending the down part. So when you add your seaming allowance on the down part, make sure you always fold it in. Always fold the bottom of your trouser, the ankle or the end of your trouser in before you cut, to avoid you having challenges. I personally do not add any other seaming allowance other than the one I am adding right now, which I always add 3/4 of an inch on the out seam. That is the side of my trouser. Always add 3/4 of an inch to it, and that is what I'm sewing my trouser with. While on the inseam, I always sew my inseam with half an inch. So already the extra 2 inches we added to the back block have taken care of the allowance that we need. So I'll take half inch from there and sew my inseam. So most people add 1.5 inches to the back of their trouser. I just add 2, knowing that I have half inch to use as my seaming allowance, and with this I avoid extra steps. So I'm not adding any seaming allowance on the top that I'll be attaching to the band, because already my draft includes that. So this is the basic block for my trouser. So as I'm cutting, that is exactly how I am going to place it on my fabric and cut. And this way my trouser is going to be fitted. It's not going to be too tight nor too loose. It's just going to be the perfect fit for me. But in case you want to make a palazzo, it's just to have the leg a lot wider than this. So now to the waistband, make sure you fold in your darts allowance. Use a tracing wheel and trace out the waist of your pants that you just drafted. This type of waistband is called contoured waistband, and it gives a better fit. If you notice in the earlier video when I was showing you the intro part, that my band fits nicely on my body. So this is because I drafted it this way. So now you are going to take out, make sure that you don't include your seaming allowance. You could work on the seaming allowance much later. You could add that, but now that I'm drafting, I'm not going to include seaming allowance. A standard band is 1.5 inches. At least that's the band we plan to use on this trouser. So here I'm going to add my half-inch seaming allowance on the bottom and on the top. If you have a contoured waistband like this, you can't just cut and fold it over. But you can actually cut the side on fold, but you need to have a seaming allowance on top and below. So here I'm tracing my front block just like I did for the back block, and you can see my front waistband appears to be more straight compared to the back that arched a bit. So I'm just repeating the same step for the front. making sure that I have my 1.5 inch as my band, even though it's slightly curved. So now after adding my 1.5 inch, I'm going to as well add my half-inch seaming allowance to my band and connect that. So now you are pretty much done with drafting your band. But to be sure that everything is normal, I'm just going to cut and show you. Please note that I have not added any joining allowance to this band. I'm just showing you example of what your band should look like. So it will be your duty to choose whatever style or design you want, whatever extension you want to add. So my back band is ready now for the front. Now my front band is equally ready. So here I am just sizing it up, making sure that it fits, and it does fit. So I can now glue my band together. So this is what it now looks like. I am gluing it on that allowance. So this is the exact half my waistband without any allowance by the side or any allowance for the extension like the fly extension. So this is the idea behind my waistband. I'm going to add my fly extension to it when I'm sewing it, but this is how I typically cut my contoured waistband, that I don't want it looking funny at the back. So now just know that you're cutting this on fold. The edge, the back will be on fold, and for the front block you're cutting 2 times, same with the back block. And also the band, you have 2, you're cutting the band 2, though you're cutting it on fold, 1 for the outer and 1 for the one behind. So you cut your fly. So this is basically how to draft a pant pattern. It's quite simple, I guess. So next is to add pockets. Just mark 2 inches, that's aside from your seaming allowance, and come down 7 inches. Just know that you have half-inch seaming allowance on top, so the opening will be 6.5. It must finish up at 7-inch opening. So just choose whatever design you like for the pocket. So it's that simple to draft a pant with pockets. I hope you understand. So here I'm going to use this my fabric and transform it into the pant that you saw at the beginning of this video. So thank you for watching if you've gotten to this point, and please, if you're here for the first time, don't forget to subscribe and check out other of our videos. Thank you, and see you in the next tutorial. Bye for now.